Welcome to Rock Solid, the Round Rock Business Leaders Podcast. Join your host, Bryan Eisenberg, as he explores the journeys of entrepreneurs and companies across Round Rock, Texas. From startups to large organizations, each guest shares their passion for doing business in this thriving community. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bryan Eisenberg, and I'm here with my friend StephanieTyler. Some of you may know Stephanie from Round the Rock. That's just one of your little projects.
Just one.
Little project. And of course, you also do the Fire Foundation. And I definitely want to cover both of those. But I kind of want to just take a different way to start, which is you just finished the 11th year of the Best of Round Rock Awards. And I want to talk about why it's so important to have that done and a little bit about like what you saw this year, because it was interesting. It was different than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely bigger this year than ever before. I think we moved into sort of the elevated. I went from kind of toddler stage to like now we're going to grow up in this new decade. With the organization being 11 years old and this being the 11th year of awards, it made sense to just elevate everything. And we saw a great response. We saw a response from the community. We saw a great response from the businesses. And so the numbers on the back end were just insane. And I think that for me was amazing and also overwhelming at the same time, and trying to kind of make sure everything ran smoothly for everybody.
Yeah, compared to previous years, the numbers are way more representative of the size of Round Rock compared to the amount you've seen in the past.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think this year, just to give you some stats, I think we had 9,000 users log in, and that's unprecedented for us. And then we had over 30,000 votes from the community across an elevated. We expanded the number of categories this year, really to accomplish, again, as the growth of Round Rock. It makes sense to support more of Round Rock in those best of and give more businesses and professionals opportunity to participate. And we definitely saw that resonated.
Yeah, and obviously, the awards focus on a wide variety of businesses. Can you kind of share like which were the ones that really were kind of like hot, like a lot of people really got involved in? Because I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yes. So I think the number one that springs to mind when you ask that question is the hair salons. So the category for hair salon had a massive number of contenders in it. And then it seemed like it was just vicious voting. So, and I think everybody sort of panicked when we went to dark mode. So we go to dark mode a week after or a week before we end. And then you saw even it ratcheted everything up because they really wanted to land in that, first, second, third spot. So that was surprising to me. I just didn't expect that. But that was a hot category.
So hopefully next year, even more businesses will get involved. More people will vote because you've amplified it a lot. And that's a lot about what you've done in this community. So you've been running Round the Rock now for a little over a year?
I have not hit a year yet. It'll be a year next month. In mid-December will be a year.
And you took that over. What were you doing prior to that? And let's talk about like what Round the Rock does. I know that its mission is to connect, businesses, people, events, nonprofits. But share more about your vision of it.
So I think Round the Rock was born as a mom blog, really focused on activities and events happening in Round Rock, which is a huge element of what we still provide to the community. My vision and our mission really is to help the Round Rock area thrive. And so broadening that from just providing that kind of information for families and people in the area to include more of the Best of Round Rock, which really serves the business part of the community, and not just doing that once a year, not saying, hey, we've done Best of Round Rock and now we'll go along our business, really pointing the community and those businesses back to themselves. You voted this the best hair salon, so when you're looking for get your hair done, maybe look at that list. And then really moving into the nonprofit sector, you mentioned the nonprofit, which is near and dear to my heart. So really elevating nonprofits in the space as well. There's a number of people out there doing great work. And I find it's hard for smaller nonprofits to find either marketing dollars or marketing skills. And so having a platform that we can reach a broad number of people in the community to drive them to help those nonprofits, whether it's time, talent, or treasure. And we see that all the time where people are looking for volunteer opportunities, or I want to take my kids and go do something. And there's mechanisms to do that. So really just getting that information out. And then really my fourth pillar is education, which I haven't touched too much yet, but that's also something that comes from my background. And really taking all of those four pillars and making it a more robust community resource for everybody. It's something for everybody.
Yeah, and you're also involved in a nonprofit. We'll talk a little bit about the Fire Foundation. I got to witness a little bit about what you do there when you did a fair for all of these kid entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And that blew my mind because, obviously my last book was, Rice and Beans Millionaire. And the book before that, I talked about even a lemonade stand can do it. So I've been thinking small businesses, but when you watch these kids and the passion they have and some of the ideas they had, it was mind blowing. Tell us all about what you're doing there.
Yeah. So the event you're talking about is our Children's Business Fair. And we do that every year. It's in April. And it's essentially, farmers market style tent and table event, outdoors. We partner with the Chasco Family YMCA for the last few years, so we use their space. And really, it's a chance for young entrepreneurs to just dive in and start doing what they do. And I think you're absolutely right. We're going into our 8th year next year, and we've just seen consistent growth. We think we started with maybe 35 booths at the very beginning, and now we're at 80, almost 100 booths, with 150 entrepreneurs on those last year. So the growth, I think, speaks to not only just the kind of entrepreneurscape of Round Rock, because I think there's entrepreneurs here that are teaching their kids to be entrepreneurs, but also just kids wanting to do what they do, right? And I think when you come to that event or you participate in that event, you just realize that when you give the kids the reins, which is really the Fire Foundation, right? We're trying to we're future forward thinking about education, right? Reimagine that. So what does that look like? And that really means putting the reins in the kids' hands and what can they do? And so for Children's Business Fair, having a kid that has an idea that they take from, have an idea and then working them through the process of like opening that business is so valuable. Not only for, maybe they are a serial entrepreneur, they grow up and they have a ton of businesses like someone we know, right? Or maybe just they're a really solid piece of workforce because they understand end to end what it takes, right? And they've touched all those parts and pieces. So we've seen kids that have gone all the way through, aged out. They come back as peer mentors for us. They come back as committee members to help us build that event. And then, it just continues to grow, and it's become more of a community event now, but very much focused on kids and what they do and putting them in the driver's seat.
And even more so that there's a curriculum behind this as well, coming back to your passion for education. So let's talk a little about what that looks like, because obviously one of the things we want to do with this podcast is impact newer entrepreneurs in local communities and understand how they become successful. And you're getting them started young. So obviously there's something there.
Yeah. I mean, we started age 4. So if you haven't had a 4-year-old sell you something, you've got to come out and check it out, because they're more than capable. And they're not taking cash, it's cards, even at 4. And for us, really, it's again, putting those kids in the driver's seat, but then tooling them with a resource we call the Children's Business Fair Roadmap. And really, if you picture kind of Candyland style imagery on the front, it's got, I have an idea, and then you walk through, I think there's 7 or 8 steps to opening your business. And so it might be pricing or marketing or product development, right? All those things that you have to do before you can open your business. And then if you flip that resource over on the back, there is a set of questions that align with each of those steps that Socratically guide the kiddos through what would you do? What do you need to think about when you're thinking about pricing? What do you need to think about when you're putting your booth together? So it really is more guiding than curriculum per se, but it resonates with them, and they just go off and check the list. And, we have some people that some of those kiddos show up and you're like, wow, you really understood the assignment, or you've been here already and you really understand the assignment. Or we've had kids that show up and you're like, oh, what's today, right? But that in itself is a lesson.
Yeah.
And there's takeaways.
I mean, there are a couple who completely blew me away last year. And I know you said you've been doing this 8 years. There's probably a couple of them you might even think might be great guests for this show. They could probably teach some adults about business or not. Well, can you tell me a little bit about what they've done that that would inspire them, and we'll figure out, we don't have to name them, but kind of like what they've done, and then we'll hopefully invite them to the show at some point.
Yeah, for sure. So last year, the one kiddo, there were a lot of them out there and it's interesting the type of show we get. So some years it's more food heavy, and some years it's more art and jewelry. We've had a tech heavy 3D printed. That was the thing across the board. But the one that stands out for me last year was it's a kiddo that I think he might be driving now. I think he's 16 and got his license, but he approached me. Well, he did the fair last year. And last year he told the judges, because we do a competition with it, and that's what you participated in. He told the judges, they were like, well, where do you see yourself next year? And he's like, I'm going to make you shirts. He does promo items. And so, okay, cool. That's really neat. And by God if he didn't contact me and say, hey, I want to do the shirts for the event. So we do shirts that have a kiddo does the art on the shirt, and then a kiddo produced the shirts last year. And I'm like, I can't get any more entrepreneurial than that. So he did a great job. He was fantastic. He was professional. He's got contacts on everywhere, I think except Antarctica, he told me. So I'm also looking at him for other promotional items at this point, and he was 15 at the time.
That's amazing. And
he'd make a great guest.
What do you think it is about him and what's behind him, what supports him, that made him so successful?
For him, I think his parents were very supportive of like, hey, if that's what you want to pursue, then let's look at it. I don't think, in talking to his dad at least, who had to drive him because he wasn't driving yet, I don't think he expected him to take it like, this is like a legit business. You're doing this, right? It's not kind of like a hobby or a fun thing you do. This is like your deal. I think they were also like, well, what are you going to do for college? And I'm like, he's making bank right now. So I don't know, but I think parents just being very supportive and understanding that kids are capable, and just letting them have the reins and seeing what they do. I think it's the biggest key is parents just kind of letting go and standing back.
I would 100% agree. My son has a friend of his who's young entrepreneur, started a landscaping business, doing amazing things, graduated early out of high school, was already making six figures. What's going to go to college for to get more in depth? Yeah. Like, it's just not, it didn't make sense if he's already so successful. And I agree, the parents are a huge part. What do you think it is about Round Rock? Because it is a very family-friendly community, and that's the reason, again, Round the Rock started, that creates that environment that allows parents to let their kids thrive like that here.
I think, it's interesting because I would say we change a lot of minds. I think there's some very entrepreneurial-minded professionals here, whether they've started a business or brought a business to Round Rock, and so they're very supportive of their kids doing the same. The other kind of flip side of that is I will meet parents that are like, oh, she draws, or he does this art thing that he has, and I'm like, but he can, if you come to the fair, inevitably they come to the fair and they're like, we're coming back next year, like we understand this now. So I think it's because it's family friendly. The event itself is fun to come to and shop. And then we add all kinds of, fun stuff for people to do and stay. We bring out School of Rock to do live music. That's kids doing what they love to do. So coming out to what you think is a community event and then going like, wow, this is a thing. Like my kiddo can do this and take whatever talent, passion, skill that they have and actually look to monetize it.
That's awesome. I mean, you've been here for a while, since before Round Rock kind of really exploded, especially in the last couple of years. It's really exploded. But tell us a little bit about what brought you to the area, and a little bit about what your favorite things about wanting to be in this area is.
Yeah. So I actually moved here a long time ago. A long time ago. I was in high school. I finished actually high school at Westwood.
Yeah, you're practically native.
I'm close. I'm really close. But there are some of those Round Rockers out there. I'm like, wow, you've been here a long time. But yeah, so I came here with my family and ended up graduating high school over at Westwood. And I love Round Rock just because there's so many things to do here. And I love Wilco because as the county grows, and I know that growth can cause pain, but it's also causing a lot of opportunity and, not only to come out and do different things, but to be exposed to all kinds of food and people and activities. So I think just the diversity of not only the people and the kinds of businesses and organizations that are here, but also just the fun stuff to do. And I find that, Wilco is so fluid now. It used to be you left Austin and got to Round Rock, and now it's like, you might live in Round Rock, but your favorite restaurant's in Hutto, or you might live in Taylor and your favorite restaurant's in Georgetown. So just very fluid.
So we'll take a little hiatus there. So what is the favorite restaurant? I mean, I know you guys just celebrated your anniversary at one, but I don't know if that's the favorite.
I did, yeah. That's not in Austin. That's in Austin. So, but that's sentimental for other reasons. Yeah, I mean, actually, I was just there yesterday. So best overall restaurant was Blue Corn Harvest, which is just landed in Round Rock, kind of near Del Diamond on 79. And, the folks there are so embracing. And what I love about what I do is that when I meet these companies, yes, they're coming to Round Rock and they want to make money, and it might be an expansion or it might be our first business. But what inevitably I find is they want to connect to the community. They want to get involved in what's happening, whether that's through nonprofit work or donating, to causes. But they really want to get ingrained and embedded in what the community is, and I love that.
Yeah, community is the biggest impact. And you're not, like, again, if you weren't busy enough, besides with Round the Rock and managing editor of that and the Fire Foundation, you're also very involved in the chamber, right? Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing with the Round Rock Chamber?
Yeah, so both the nonprofit and Round the Rock are so I'm a double member, but I also sit on the Entrepreneurship Council, and I know you interviewed Bill, and Bill's stepping into the lead of that, so I'm really excited about that. But really, the Entrepreneurship Council to me is really driving. I find my role on that really advocating for kiddos still, because we think of entrepreneurs as like, oh, you're grown up and you've had a business and you're, maybe you went to college, maybe you didn't. But I'm like, it starts so much earlier than that. And so when we look at Entrepreneurship Council doing like startup day or a pitch competition, I'm like, can we just not have an age limit on it? I'm waiting for my kids to jump in. I'm waiting for them to come in and be ready to do those kinds of things. So Entrepreneurship Council is definitely something I've been doing for a long time with the chamber. And then, I'm an ambassador this year. I'm doing Leadership Round Rock next year, which I'm very excited about.
Yep.
But I just think staying close to the people that are trying to drive the change and then really support the community, whether that's business or play.
Yeah, and the Round Rock Chamber is different than a lot of other chambers. And I'm sure we'll have one of them as our guest as well. But it's also because they're involved in the economic development part of it as well. And I know you visit a lot of chamber events in the area. What is it about the Round Rock Chamber that really connects with you, and you feel that all the businesses that you're speaking with, obviously on the Round the Rock side and the Fire Foundation side?
I feel like there's just a lot of opportunity to network, and I think that's at the heart of everything that I need or want from the chamber, and they do provide that. Lots of different events, but even outside of that, you can use the business directory. You're getting information directly from members, so I like the fact that it's like its own little community. Like it creates a community that's then ripple effects into the rest of the community.
Now, you've witnessed a lot of businesses come and go over the last number of years, especially in this community. Based on your experience, because I know you also have a marketing background, what is it that really is starting to separate the ones that are lasting here for years and years and years, and the ones that kind of struggle getting off the ground?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it also depends on whether you're a a single or a franchise. We've seen franchises come in that don't do well. And then we've seen mom and pops that are like, yep, because everybody loves their neighborhood, whatever it is. So I'm not sure if there's one thing that divides them. I think I would go back to the community thing. If they're connected to the community, and that may just be their community of customer and clients, and they're really serving those clients in the way that they need, and kind of get tunnel vision when you're a business owner on like, this is how I'm going to do it. But then when you recognize there are different needs, or maybe you need to be flexible and adaptable, I think that's when you really win.
Yeah. Thinking about that, I kind of want to put you on the spot. Like, what is a business that we currently don't have that you wish we did?
Oh man, that's a good question. There's so many. There's so many businesses. I'm like, I don't know. What do I not have? That's a hard one. I don't know.
No, nothing that particularly, like saying we don't have this kind of restaurant, or we don't have this kind of hair salon.
Yeah, there's lots of those. Well, what I also found with Best Of was we broadened the food categories, and some of those I was Googling, like, do we have enough to, is there more? Is there just one of those? And there's such a diversity of restaurants in this area, which I learned like, wow, okay, you can get pretty much any kind of food you want in Round Rock. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
You seem to be pretty satisfied.
We have a lot. Here. And I think there's still a lot coming. You see a lot of the new businesses when we're doing ribbon cuttings and things like that. So I can't imagine what's going to happen when everything is completely, really grown out in Round Rock, because we have areas that are still in progress. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's fair. If you're a new entrepreneur and you're hearing this, there seems to be a little bit of everything. How would you approach launching into your community then?
Yeah, I mean, I think a great place to start is the chamber, just because there's so much networking opportunity there. But I think getting out and really seeing what is in the community, and then understanding your landscape. Is if you don't know where you are and you're kind of in your own bubble, it's hard to really understand how you fit into that fabric. But so I would say chamber is probably the first stop that I would make. And there's lots of other networking opportunities around, and there's a ton of networking opportunities and groups and things like that. But finding one of those that's going to fit and be your tribe is probably critical.
Yeah, I know one of the things I would do if I were going to start a new business in Round Rock now is start with the best of Round Rock, pick the category, look inside there, see what's even close to it.
That's true.
Go visit them, go look at their social media, kind of go like what their community looks like.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, just network and network and network until I figure out what that magic formula is to stand out from them.
Yeah, that's very true.
Pieces of advice for those young entrepreneurs wanting to get started in the community, they don't know where to begin. How would you suggest they start?
Yeah, I think depending on the age,
Mm-hmm.
if you're really young, come to our fair. And I think what is amazing about our fair is it's not the only fair now. When we did this a few years ago, it was just us. And now you see those popping up everywhere. And so, if you're young and you're really, entrepreneurial minded, that's a great way to start and just test it out. And risk is low at that point. But what I have found is I've had entrepreneurs that do that and then continue their business, right? Because they find the right formula, they find that right recipe of something that's resonating with their market here. I think if you're a young entrepreneur, again, going back to the chamber, there's a program specifically for you.
Mm-hmm.
So going in and trying to figure out, what those resources are for you.
Okay, final question.
Okay.
Can you think of a business in town that's kind of underrated, doesn't get the respect it deserves? Maybe they don't have the visibility that they deserve that you want to give a shout out to.
Yeah. So I'm going to just say the one that came straight to the top of my mind. She's a chamber member, and she is hardworking behind her counter all the time, and it's hard for her to get out and network. It's Sweet Tooth Parlor.
Okay.
So Sweet Tooth Parlor is right there on 79, right before Grimes Maze. You kind of have to know she's a little bit tucked in there, but she's been here for a long time. She does great work. She participates in the Taste of Round Rock, which is a chamber event, and she's wonderful stuff. But it's mostly a solopreneur event, right? And so she's hard to kind of get out and get networking. But I think she's one of the unsung heroes that's been here for a while.
Well, now a lot more people have
Right,
heard of
there you
her.
go.
So there we go. We gave her
You're
that
welcome.
big shout out. Stephanie, thank you so much for your time today. Any final words of wisdom for either the kiddos or the adults wanting to be entrepreneurs in our
No, I think
community?
either one, I would invite them out to our fair. It's April 12th next year. If you're an adult and you're an entrepreneur, you will learn something from these kiddos. And if you're a kiddo and you think you might be an entrepreneur, make your parents bring you out and just see what that's about. Dip your toe in and have some fun with it because it's a really fun event.
I'd agree. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks for having me.